It was the most watched shuttle launch in history. 30 years ago today, homes and schools tuned in to see the crew of the Challenger embark on its mission. Joining the astronauts was a teacher from Concord, New Hampshire, who had inspired a nation. Christa McAuliffe was selected from thousands of applicants for the Teacher in Space program. For this high school social studies teacher with a passion for exploration, it was to be the ultimate field trip. She trained to conduct experiments on board Challenger that would be broadcast to classrooms on Earth. And she hoped to make a trip that many people only dreamed about possible.
Liftoff.
But seconds after liftoff, the Challenger tragedy stunned the country and the world. The shuttle crew was lost. From the heartbreak grew a new mission. Good evening. I'm Erin Phalo here at the Christa McAuliffe School in Concord, New Hampshire. When it opened in 2012, Christa's family said that she would be thrilled to have her name on the school. The Concord teacher once said, "I touch the future, I teach." And as you will see tonight, her mission of educating and inspiring students to reach their full potential goes on. For the families of the 7 Challenger crew members, the shuttle's loss was a personal tragedy witnessed by the world. Out of their grief rose a goal, and tonight we're going to show you what they created and how even 30 years later, Challenger is touching the future and inspiring a new generation to reach for the stars.
3, 2, 1.
This PDI is going to be interesting.
Mission Control, this is Space Station. Please acknowledge. Do you copy? Over.
I see we're having an emergency with the red lights.
Welcome to Challenger Center, an interactive space mission adventure for students.
It's better learning here than at school.
It's so cool, honestly. I love it so much.
Thumbs up, thumbs up.
At the newest location in San Antonio, Texas, middle and high school kids travel to the International Space Station in a simulated mission, Earth Odyssey. The goal, to engage kids in science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, as they work together in teams to replace one of Earth's vital satellites.
I think it's a good experience and it's something different.
This is an amazing place.
This latest Challenger Center is on the campus of San Antonio College in the Scobie Education Center, named for the Challenger commander Dick Scobie, who attended school here. His widow, June Scobie Rogers, is Challenger Center's founding director.
I think he would be proud to see, 30 years after their loss, that something beautiful was created in their memory.
After the shuttle disaster, the families of the 7 crew members decided they didn't want a monument as a tribute to their loved ones, but instead a place where the Challenger mission would live on.
The mission was so important. So I could not let that mission end. I couldn't let it. I couldn't let it. So to the families, I said, can we continue that mission for them? Can we continue the Teacher in Space mission? And each person said, let's do it, June.
2 years later, June opened the first Challenger Center in Houston.
It was a dream fulfilled, a dream come true. And I teared up and cried the entire time that we had our first mission with students involved. And it's come a long way in 30 years.
We're continuing the mission that Christa McAuliffe started when she was preparing to teach a lesson in space.
Christa McAuliffe graduated from Framingham State University, and in the campus building that bears her name, you'll find another Challenger Center. School groups here are on a different mission, a voyage to Mars.
We say that we go to Mars at least twice a day.
The scenario? It's the year 2076, and students travel to the Martian surface to collect data to help Earth scientists better understand the red planet.
But I don't actually do the work, they do the work, I just sort of guide them towards it.
During the Challenger Center missions, visiting school classes are separated into teams, like satellites.
So 2 gray and 2 red, correct?
and communication.
Mars Control, this is the Mars lander.
Each team performs different tasks.
We are navigation and we are trying to bring back the Mars lander back to Earth.
I'm learning a lot about solar flares and dust storms.
It's really engaging because they're working independently, but at the same time they're working in a team to help their teammates get through the mission.
Some team members are sent to space while others work in mission control. Then halfway through the simulation, they trade places. The students take their role seriously and even apply for their positions.
So they fill out their job application and then they tell me a reason why they would be good candidates. They would have to sell themselves.
The newest Challenger Center in San Antonio is the model for the future. We're going to join this crew on the transport vehicle as they head off onto their mission. First, buckle up.
Booster ignition and liftoff.
The seat is rumbling along with the sound.
Range is 30 meters using range ruler. Target is nominal and the system is nominal. Copy.
Then we approach the ISS.
All right, so that's a good sound. That means we've docked to the International Space Station.
Our next stop, the decontamination room. And a message from NASA's first female shuttle commander, Eileen Collins.
Welcome to the space station. Take the time to observe, to learn, and to marvel at the beauty of the planet Earth.
Walking into the space station is like stepping into an episode of Star Trek.
I was surprised at how many activities there were in that one room.
All the science and research they're doing is going to help us understand if it's safe to stay in space, to do research, and to launch the satellite in space that's going to observe the Earth.
While in space, they communicate with their mission control counterparts.
Because behind every astronaut, there are thousands of support staff supporting their job. An astronaut cannot be successful without the team behind them.
What did you guys get to do? The students tackle emergency situations. An air quality issue. A warning from Mission Control has this team detecting another danger.
Wow, that's a major microbe contamination on Space Station.
The most dramatic emergency happens when the space station gets too close to a solar flare.
Hey astronauts, it seems to be a fire on station.
A smoke machine for special effects alerts students to a simulated fire.
I'm like, oh, something's happening. It was fun. I turned around and I freaked out and I was just like, what? Where do we go?
So tell them we're evacuating due to fire on station.
It gives us more knowledge of what can happen if you were actually up in space.
There are more than 40 Challenger Centers, and they're not just here in the U.S. They can also be found in the U.K., Canada, and South Korea. And while not all of them are as high-tech as this one in San Antonio, Texas, the mission is still the same: to engage kids in the areas of STEM.
Science, technology, engineering, math, STEM. Challenger Center coined as an acronym long before it was popular.
We challenge them to try hard things and to master them and to move on to the next. And so the challenge in Challenger really is what we try to offer them.
Aerospace engineer Lance Bush had just started working at NASA when the shuttle Challenger was lost. Today, he's the CEO of the Challenger Center.
30 years later, we're almost 4.5 million children have had the experience of going up into space through our Challenger Center mission and being inspired to achieve more greatness in their life.
The goal is to inspire some of these kids to be scientists, engineers, maybe medical doctors, because we really need that.
Astronaut Mark Kelly, who did 4 space flights, is on the Challenger Center board.
It'd be great to get one here in New Hampshire, the home of Christa McAuliffe. That'd be a good thing.
Back in San Antonio, working against the clock has paid off, and students launched their satellite just in the nick of time.
Congratulations, SAT team, for a successful construction and launch of the satellite. There is is our data. Good job, astronauts.
As they celebrate here in Framingham on the Mars lander, it is also mission accomplished.
Our probe team, they finished the probe. Let's give them a nice round of applause.
I've heard kids, come out of this experience saying, wow, I want to do this. I want to be an astronaut. So it's wonderful.
It was a really good experience for me because I want to be an aerospace engineer when I get older.
I actually like this place. It's really cool. And it makes learning more fun.
The Challenger mission lasted seconds, but in reality, the mission of Challenger has lasted for 30 years.
Up next, remembering Christa McAuliffe.
I don't think there was any astronaut who had as much fun as Christa did.
It was to be the ultimate field trip for a high school social studies teacher from Concord, New Hampshire. Christa McAuliffe, a wife and mother of 2 young children, was selected from thousands of educators to become the first American citizen to travel to space on board the shuttle Challenger under the command of Dick Scobie. His widow, June, remembers the excitement surrounding the Teacher in Space program.
So Dick Scobie came home one day and said, "What do you think about a teacher flying with me?" I was so excited. I said, "You get to have the teacher on your mission? Oh my gosh." He said, "Well, I think they thought, since I'm married to a teacher, that they thought I would respect and enjoy having a classroom teacher."
Far from home, training with NASA in Texas, Christa often had dinner with the Scobie family.
As we grew to know each other, we enjoyed talking about being teachers and our classroom activities and what was important in hands-on education.
Good morning. This is Christa McAuliffe, live from the Challenger, and I'm going to be taking you through a field trip.
As she prepared for the mission, Christa practiced the lessons she planned to broadcast to classrooms on Earth.
So we thought I could talk about the sleep restraint.
She wanted to demystify space travel.
This is how we rehydrate the food.
By giving students a tour of the shuttle.
As I'm talking about the treadmill, this is the cue for the crew to start floating into view.
She hoped to teach them about life in orbit.
Not only the safety of what it's like flying aboard, but what it's like to brush your teeth or comb your hair or shower or bathe.
Christa trained in a zero-gravity aircraft where she ran through some of her experiments. She planned to assemble floating items, a lesson in weightlessness.
Because I think it's hard for kids to realize that you can build something that's not attached to anything. But in zero gravity, you can do that.
I don't think there was any astronaut who had as much fun as Christa did. She was forever whispering, "Oh, my students would love this. Oh, my kids back in Concord, they'd really love this."
I think she was a person that connected with everyone.
Here at the Challenger Center in the McAuliffe Building at Christa's alma mater, Framingham State, you'll find items used during NASA training and invitations to ceremonies leading up to the launch. A mural at the campus library honors the school's most famous student. Sometime after the tragedy, Christa's family members gave this library the thousands of cards they had received from those whose hearts broke with the loss of the Challenger.
Connecticut through Massachusetts.
The boxes upon boxes,
New Hampshire, New Jersey,
contain cataloged condolences from all over the country,
Saudi Arabia, Scotland,
and the world.
You could just imagine it was just an outpouring of love and mourning to the family.
Among the items, a card from New Hampshire State Police, artwork from classrooms in Tilton and New Durham, and a letter from a teacher in training.
I am a freshman at Plymouth State College, majoring in education. I am truly proud to become a teacher like Christa.
The collection also includes Christa's Teacher in Space application, where she detailed why she wanted to travel into orbit.
I cannot join the space program and restart my life as an astronaut, but this opportunity to connect my abilities as an educator with my interest in history and space is a unique opportunity to fulfill my early fantasies. I watched the space age being born, and I would like to participate.
Christa was thrilled to have been chosen, but in letters home, she longed to be with her family.
Now and then she'd say, June, I'd really like to go home this weekend. Would you put a word in your husband's ear? June, the kids are trying to make their Halloween costumes. You know, I think I can go home. Christmas is coming up. You think that maybe? So I was always whispering in his ear.
Now, 30 years after the tragedy, Framingham State is digitizing photos, transcribing personal letters, and compiling technical reports into an online archive to create a centralized Challenger database.
Well, I think it's a moment in history. I think we want to honor the astronauts that gave their lives to such an important mission.
In Florida, at Kennedy Space Center, NASA unveiled a permanent memorial in 2015 called Forever Remembered. The exhibit honors the 14 courageous space explorers lost in both the Challenger and Columbia tragedies.
Those are sad remembrances that we lost those orbiters.
When June thinks of Christa, she remembers a teacher so committed to her students, she was thinking of them even as she flew to Florida for the shuttle launch.
She sat there busily answering letters to her students. She was not only looking forward to her flight, but reflecting on the needs of students back home. There were students who needed recommendations for going on to college, and she was writing letters in honor of those students.
June often reflects back on the night she invited her own students to meet the future teacher in space. That evening, June gave everyone a bookmark printed with an anonymous quote, "To teach is to touch the future."
And Christa said, "Really? This quote's anonymous?" And I said, "Yes, you know, you can use it, right?" So she coined it for herself. I teach, I touch the future.
She believes Christa would be pleased to see that her hope to inspire a new generation of explorers continues.
Her mission to bring lessons to children around the world continues every day at a Challenger Center when these youngsters step over the threshold and fly in space.
Coming up,
I've got probably about 20 communities who are kind of vying for the next Challenger Center.
the future for Challenger Center and space travel.
This is going to be an opportunity for them someday to get some of the experience that an astronaut gets in actually going to space.
You think about it, we're flying to space every day, all over the world.
30 years after Challenger, the legacy continues to spread. There are more than 40 Challenger Centers in 4 countries. 2 are added each year.
We've had interest recently from United Arab Emirates, Switzerland, Israel.
They're developing apps and online programs to reach more students, but they will never take the place of these centers.
The center, you cannot replace this experience. When you see the kids transform these centers and they're still vibrant.
As students conduct experiments on the International Space Station at the San Antonio Challenger Center,
Welcome aboard the International Space Station.
astronaut Scott Kelly, who is on board the real one, is sharing his experiences with students. He's making history with a year-long mission on the ISS, his twin brother and fellow astronaut Captain Mark Kelly.
My longest flight was like 17 days, so a year is a long time.
Captain Kelly, a Challenger Center board member, says today's technology enables his brother to literally phone home.
It's my brother's space, with a rocket ship and an alien, thanks to my teenage daughter.
Scott calls Mark's cell phone from space almost every day.
Depends how busy he is. You know, last week he had a new spacecraft show up. You know, they've got to capture and berth to the space station and open it up. So on really busy days, I might not talk to him, but in general, yeah, almost every day.
With companies like Virgin Galactic and his own Worldview, Captain Kelly hopes that one day soon, average citizens will be going to space on a regular basis.
Hopefully it'll be a life-changing experience for these people. And that's one of the reasons we send people into space for a long time, because if we want to go to Mars someday, we've got to have a better understanding of how this affects the human condition.
Booster ignition and liftoff.
Having experienced space travel thanks to Challenger Center, these students could be leading the way to the stars in the future. Christa McAuliffe's husband, Stephen, tells us that Christa would be very proud of the Challenger Learning Centers that have been established by Dr. June Scobie Rogers and the Challenger families in honor of the crew. He says Challenger Learning Centers reach hundreds of thousands of children every year, teaching them about science, technology, exploration, and the indomitable human spirit. Thank you for joining us. Good night.